Anyway, today we're going to be talking about pokes. Basically, it's something that I wanted to talk about for a while because it's something I wanted to talk about for a while. We kind of touched on it here and there, but I realized that there are some things that I touch on in other classes that I kind of would like to be efficient, where it's like, okay, I talk about positioning so pokes are obvious, but then I'm like, you know what, maybe I should actually talk about it's pokes because that's important. Um, but yeah, so today, if you guys don't know, we're going to be talking about how to use pokes in neutral, common mistakes when throwing out pokes in neutral, and most importantly, how we can get better at using them, and how we can prevent and deal with characters that we think are really, really strong, but also aren't. So, we're going to start recapping some stuff that we've talked about. So we're going to go over some basic concepts, make sure everyone's on the same page. We're going to talk about basic stuff that should help any beginner listening to the stream. And then we're also going to go over some more advanced mind games around it, so that way you guys can at the very least understand at high level how people deal with this. So, kind of odd, but we're going to talk about, first of all, what is a poke? So, a poke in this case is an option that a character has that controls a certain amount of space on the screen or can control a certain area of the screen as well. And hopefully doesn't have too much recovery. Now, there are good pokes and bad pokes, and we will talk about all of them. This will probably be the most colorful roster that you guys are going to see me play. I'll also go over your characters and how to identify pokes properly, what is a good poke, and situations and when to use them. So it's going to be pretty interesting. So for now, to demonstrate this concept, I think we're going to go with blues. Yeah, I think I'm going to go with the blues. No. We're going to talk about these. These are going to be pokes. And then we're going to talk about some top tier shit. So we're going to talk about top tiers and why people consider them top tier. And whether or not they really deserve it. But yeah, so as usual, chat, where am I labbing? Where am I going? Space? Okay. Space. Oh, you guys really like space. Okay. Wow, 4 spaces. That's wild. 5 spaces. It's wild. I see how we feel, chat. I see how we feel. Alright. So poke is a neutral option that controls a certain area of the screen, a certain range of the screen, and can be used to essentially augment and start our offense while simultaneously threatening our opponent. So to put that in a single definition, basically a poke is something that either ideally attacks your opponent to start offense, or threatens your opponent so they have to jump away. So for example, if she does that, that's a poke. Yo, let's go! 1 year with us, Saber! That makes me so happy. So, we're throwing out a poke. That's something we have to deal with. Wow, that's a whip punish, lol. So, that's something that we have to think about and control. So, right here, I can't stay here. If I stay here, I lose neutral. So, this right here is what I would call a threatening poke, or just a threat. You guys have probably heard me use, oh, you need to present a threat. This is what I mean. If I know, for example, that she has bar and 236H because I'm paying attention to the position, and I know she's going to use it, I have to avoid it. So I'm going to move in a way that prevents her from using that poke in a successful way. However, as we know from talking about positional advantage, and we'll recap it a little bit, even if this poke whiffs, she's still in a very advantageous position because I'm now under her. She has assists, and if I don't have an assist and I try to fall on her with a button, she can recover and probably 2 and 4H my shit. But that's a situation we'll go over in a little bit. Now, now, I should play Gogeta Blue. Not for any particular reason, just because why not? I used to play this character. I'm probably gonna do some fuck mix-ups. That's fun. No, just curse stuff like that. Should be fun. I actually really like this mix-up, to be honest. It's so fake, but I guarantee you it would hit people. And you can also, as a threat, you get the landing recovery here, which is sad. So you can't do this. Why? Why does 2H add landing recovery? That's so strange. I actually didn't know that. Why? Why does this have landing recovery? I guess it's a knowledge check if they do this, you know? Because Rekka's airborne after 2H. It has landing recovery in the air. That's stupid. Why? Whatever. You're already risking a 2H potentially. Like, just let him have it. Anyway, whatever. Point being, a poke is generally something that controls a particular area of the screen to threaten the opponent, and simultaneously, if it hits, allows you to either start your offense, whether that be, you know, pressure, or whether that is, you know, a hit into a very powerful conversion. Pokes generally, the best pokes generally cover a wide amount of space, or a very long amount of space. You know, they hit either very high, or they hit very, very far across the ground, and command a decent amount of space, because that allows you to threaten with very little movement. For example, if we look at 2M for Vegeta, this threatens nothing. I basically have to do it like 6 times to reach her. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like, right? But with Gogeta, pretty much almost 1. So if I move just a little bit, like if I just move like 1 dash space, I'm pretty much already in range. So he can threaten you from about like right here, which is a pretty decent distance. Wow, that's so minus even that far. That's hilarious. Anyway. He cannot stagger that. He has to actually go into the... He actually has to go into it. That's super funny. Anyway. Never mind. Maybe I won't play Gogeta Blue. Anyway. Yeah. So, basically, you're controlling a pretty decent area of the screen. You're presenting a threat that your opponent has to manage. This is technically a poke as well, but it is a less effective poke. You have a lot of pokes and they're not all equal, guys. We have to think about our best pokes and our most likely pokes. One of the biggest mistakes that I see, which I'm going to go over when it comes to pokes, aside from breaking the cardinal rules that we have set up for neutral, is, well, you know what? I'm going to go over 4 basic mistakes that I see. And these are the most problematic, I think, mistakes that you're going to find. And I feel like a lot of you, I definitely saw it when a lot of you did it when you were participating in our tournament. When you were participating in our tournament, I definitely saw a lot of these issues, but I also see these issues in like HOC, I see these issues on Wanted, like I see these a lot in not even just mid-level players, but even higher level players too, like people that play matches pretty consistently. They do have some of these issues. The number 1 biggest one is over poking. Basically, who hasn't seen this? You know, who hasn't seen a Vegito do this, right? Or this, and they're always doing like this, trying to zone. You know, trying to zone and constantly throwing out projectiles, you know, constantly harassing. We've all played people that have never wanted to, like, we've all played people that have essentially never stopped pressing a button, even if they were minus, and they're constantly poking. That's kind of an issue, right? This is actually an issue. I'm people. It's me. I'm people. Yeah. Over poking is a serious issue that we'll discuss later, but it is a giant mistake. And basically a really big TLDR as to why is because if you're always going to poke, your opponent can simply pay attention to the timings in which you poke and then position themselves to properly whiff punish you. This is why, if you look at higher level matches, especially between like Wawa and Yasha, you actually won't see them use 5M that much. It's weird, right? Because that's the whole reason people want this character nerfed. Yet, the best players in the world don't do it. Oh, they even made it safe on block. Or they let it remain safe on block, rather. It could still be plus. Cool. Neat. Anyway, point is, 5M, not really that... It's a very powerful poke, and it's very, very, very scary, but it's not necessarily unbeatable. I'm going to teach you how to manage, hopefully by the end of this class, I'm going to teach you how to manage these characters' pokes, so that way you're not dying, you know, every time you play. So that would be pretty nice, right? Press 1 in the chat if you really want to learn how to deal with this character's stupid fucking 5M. You guys tired of this button yet? I'll show you why I don't think it's that broken. Even though I do think it should be reverted, but for different reasons. Buff Vegeta. Hashtag buff Vegeta. Alright, cool. That makes me happy. Now, share the wisdom. 1. Alright, cool. I'm going to show you how to deal with Vegito. Regardless. So, with the blues, these characters have been annoying and torturing everybody pretty much since the season started. So, I think it'll be fun. So, the next one, misjudging ranges. Press 1 if you are like, haha, this 2M is going to definitely catch their landing, and then this happened. And then you're just minus 40 right in front of the character and they just whip punish you. Misjudging your ranges is the single most common way to die when you get 40. Oh, hi Kona, I'm glad to see you here. Makes me happy. If this has been you, I apologize. It happens with characters I'm not familiar with. Yeah, it's most likely to happen with characters you're not familiar with. But misjudging the distance of your pokes is actually an incredibly common issue. And the third is one, I mean, I don't talk much, but I am here, and I'm glad you're here. Now, here's where things get interesting. Okay? Here's where things get interesting. Another big one is not thinking through the position when you do poke. What does that mean? A Vegito doing this. So, this is how we can begin to evaluate the strength of a poke, and that's going to be our first clue in determining whether or not it's going to be good. But not thinking about the position afterwards would look something like throwing this out, press 1 if this has been you, where you threw out your poke, you got what you wanted. You hit your opponent, or they blocked, you won neutral, and you're very, very happy. But you don't have an assist, and you don't have spark. And you're just staring here awkwardly, because it's not your turn, even though you just won neutral. Press 1 if that's been you.
Okay, first. What? Second?
One. Good. Welcome, Glory. Glad to see you here, and thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate it. Is it Glory Gradius, or... I think it's Gradius, or Gratus. Sorry. Yeah, this is a very, very, very common issue. This is the biggest issue that I see plaguing even the highest level. I have seen Yasha and Wawa be put themselves in this position. Not thinking greatest. Thank you. Thank you for the follow. Anyway, Yasha and Wawa, this doesn't happen very often, but it can and has happened to them even in tournament. It's very easy to forget where this is a good way to control space and threaten, you know, if I'm doing this and then I can air dash, you know, or I'm getting away from my opponent and I'm trying to create distance and create a hitbox so that way they can't do anything. That's neat because it covers a wide distance. This on paper should be a good poke. It covers a long distance very quickly, right? Especially if you preempt it with something like that. You know what I mean? Let's see if I remember how to Tiger Knee. There we go. That's a Tiger Knee. Anyway. Sidebar, that 236S series is way worse to deal with than 5M. Except not really. Because it's good, it scales very nicely. However, if it doesn't reach your opponent, you know, doesn't reach your opponent here, or they block it, there's no way for you to really enforce your turn without taking a serious risk. Because there's no Gatling option afterwards. If you don't have an assist, this is not the best poke to throw out with the intention of hitting your opponent. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So, for those of you that are new here, I'm going to go over a couple of basic concepts. If I say anything that you may not fully know if you understand or you want me to elaborate on, please consider asking a question. I would be more than happy to go over it with you. Anyway, so before we begin explaining what pokes are and how to use them and how to deal with them, we're going to talk about some concepts. The biggest one is a position. Someone asked me recently what a position was. This is going to be a reiteration for you. What I call a position, or if you hear me say position or positional advantage, is it is the situation between an opponent that is basically dictated by their proximity to the screen, the resources they have available, and where they are in actual proximity to one another. So right here, this is a position, and it's a completely even position. Both characters can kill the other. It's mutually assured destruction. You have both characters with 2 assists, and a position here, pretty common. Now, this is a completely different situation as well. This is a very different position. Vegito now has a bit more bar. He's a lot closer. Depending on whether or not he has the tempo, which we'll talk about in a moment, can determine whether or not he's winning or losing this interaction. But the interaction's about to happen because he's right here. This is a position as well. Simply floating. This is a position because he's very high in the air. He has threats that, you know, he can shower on the opponent. He can control space from here. This is a position, especially if he has bar. So if he has bar, if he has just a little bit of bar, if he didn't have bar, this would not be something that you have to deal with. Now that he does have bar, because you're paying attention to the position, now it's an option that he has available to... Wow, did I forget how to Tiger Knee? There we go. He now has a position that you have to actually deal with. And he has a new option available to him that you otherwise wouldn't have to watch out for. This is what I mean when I refer to a position. More or less. The next one is going to be positional advantage. Tiger Knee? Yeah, TK. I forgot how to Tiger Knee shit. I don't know why. I used to get this pretty consistently in the lab, but I just can't seem to do Vegito's timings anymore. There we go. That's it. There we go. So it turns out I'm dumb and I'm not hitting 9. There we go. I'm just stupid. My bad. There we go. I knew how to do it. It's just... There we go. I just wasn't hitting the up. direction on the stick because I'm very tired. So that's going to control a pretty different amount of space, and it is an option that he has available to him that you have to really begin to manage and deal with. Now, here's where things get really, really fun. Okay? Advantage and tempo are two halves of the same coin. They have to do with one another, but advantage is a broader concept than tempo. I think the biggest misconception from when I previously did these classes is I made it seem like they were the same thing. They are not. So what does a positional advantage mean? Well, right here, there's no advantage, right? I lied. There is. This right here is a very fast poke, and it is faster than anything 21 has that can beat it. Except unless she does like a big brain thing and 2Ms, but her 2M may not even necessarily reach here. Oh, it does on frame 28. So she does this. Can she win? Oh, she does. Not really, though. Ooh. Ah. Yeah, she loses. Because he can just immediately Gatling into 2M. I think she can probably cancel here, but seems risky. Point is, this loses horribly if Vegito just, you know. Yeah. Meanwhile, if she walks back, she still blocks. So technically, here Vegito does have a positional advantage just because he has something that reaches, and they're both neutral. Now, does he have the positional advantage if we're full screen, and then he does this? No. You can look at the actual frame advantage here. He's -1. Now, that's not enough for 21 to really do anything about. Like, she can't outright kill him. She can't even hit him. She can, however, have tempo. What this means is, after the dust settles, she can act first in this position. That is something that Vegito needs to be aware of and respect. This is called tempo, or having tempo. If 21 has tempo, or the positional advantage, in this case, you are effectively capable of a wider range of options than Vegito has, if you're this 21. Positional advantage has to do with tempo, and it is a part of positional advantage, but positional advantage also has to do with proximity, which means you could be plus. However, if I'm in the air, 21 has the positional advantage because she can air-to-air me, she can catch my landing, she can 214H me, she can 2H me, she can do whatever she wants to me. She has far more options than I do, even though I'm technically safer than she is. So because of that, even if I have tempo, and even if she whiffs something under me, because she remains on the ground, she still might have the positional advantage, even if she doesn't have the tempo. That's the difference for those of you that didn't know. Now, tempo, in this particular case, is very, very important. Because I can, if I do this, right? I'm just gonna fucking die. Now, that seems strong. But here's the thing, right? If I just immediately, the moment I land, that's frame 13, right? So, let me see. We'll bring Vegito back here, but I want to do this example with Vegito. Because I think Vegito is a really great character to showcase this issue with. We're going to keep Vegito there. Oh, my bad. Ah, what am I doing? There we go. I forgot to turn it off. My bad. Actually, no. I'm going to record it with Vegeta. And I'm going to bring out base Vegeta. Yeah, blue Vegeta for this. Okay. So if I'm all the way over here, right? And Vegito decides to do this, right? That's a very scary poke. I can't really do much about it. Especially if he gets even closer to me. Like that. Right? That's scary, right? Oops, my bad. There we go. And I fucked up a recording. Great. Sorry, guys. I had a long day at work. I'm very tired. There we go. Uh-oh. Now, we traded, but on that trade, Vegeta's pretty plus. Right? If I pay attention to the position, it doesn't matter how good that poke is. He doesn't have the tempo. Now, he does have the tempo if I do that. Because it is still a very fast button, but I can easily preempt it with my own button. Even my 5M, which is objectively worse in every single conceivable metric, will beat him because he does not have the tempo. He does not have the time. I have the ability to act first, and he has to wait to land in order to use his 5M. That is a very, very powerful concept to keep in mind, because tempo is the biggest reason why overpoking is a big mistake. See, if Vegito whiffs, right, he's minus 29. Now, in my opinion, before we talk about Vegito 5M, that is the dumbest thing possible. This button really does need more recovery if it's going to keep this reach. It should be way, way more minus than this. It should be as minus as Blue Goku's 2M. But, regardless, yeah, minus 35, that's still pretty light on the recovery, but it is not like... Wow, oh, his heavy is only 7. Wow. Alright. Alright, Blue Goku, chill. This has too little recovery. It needs far more than this. This is actually the biggest issue. If you want to nerf this button, but keep it the way it is with the range, add like 5 frames of recovery. Make it minus 10 on block. That simple. Now, tangent aside. Tangent aside. Minus 29 is still enough to lose tempo. If I see this Vegeta whiff. Let's see. Alright. That's range. I can whiff punish. Well, I would like to be able to, at least. Because he recovers very, very fast. But I could probably... Oh, no. I can do that, yeah. This character needs more recovery. But the point is, it's not his turn anymore. Because I can... Unfortunately, I have to do this. You know, something like this to cover him, make sure that I'm plus, keep him from running away, calling an assist, whatever. That's really annoying. Most characters, almost every character, would absolutely get punished there. Vegito doesn't. So, in that regard, 5M is absolutely stupid. But that's not really what a lot of people talk about when they complain about this. They complain about its range. The range is annoying, but it's very manageable. Like, you can dodge it almost by accident. And even if he dodges it by accident, he's still minus 29, which means if I call an assist... You know, if I call an assist... He can actually get counter hit out of it, which has happened in high-level matches. Or even better... Or if he doesn't get counter hit... If he doesn't get counter hit, I get a turn. He has to block something. Which is him not necessarily losing neutral immediately, But his tempo is slow so severely that he's in danger of losing neutral. And depending on the assist that he gets, you know, tagged with, I can actually just run up and actually win neutral and take my turn. Hey, Buttercream, how's it going? The only way you're punishing 5M is with the grounded backdash. Yeah, I agree. Well, Blueku could probably get away with it because Blueku can ID back JS. So, and if he does, he's like plus 13, so he can just 2M because his 2M is really big now. Good, you? I'm tired. I'm super, super tired, but I'm glad to be here. So, in that regard, you can already begin to see how we can deal with Vegito 5M. Where if we maintain a respectful distance, he may overcommit to it, and we can basically begin to run our counter offense. And while he needs to be punished for it, unfortunately he's not. We can definitely complain about that, and I think the criticisms there about 5M are wholly legitimate. He still doesn't get rewarded with neutral. So if you thought that that was free neutral, while it is incredibly annoying because it means that it has very low commitment, you can still beat it. Now, the same can't be said for this poke. This poke is far, far bigger of a commitment, and it reaches about the same length. Minus 40, this character is getting hard punished in every regard. All of the problems that Vegito A, like all of the problems this button has, Vegito 5M doesn't have. This, while it's still a powerful poke and we should still use it, we have to be a little bit more sparing for when we use it and use it a little bit more safely. So that's very, very important for us to keep in mind. Now, it's easy to see what are good pokes, but what determines what's a good poke and what's not a good poke? Well, I like to divide pokes into two categories. Situational pokes and general pokes. So what are general pokes? Well, general pokes are pokes that you can throw out pretty safely and comfortably in almost every situation. If you're not sure what's going to happen, or if you're not targeting anything in particular, or if you're just doing run-of-the-mill stuff. Now, here's the thing. If your opponent likes to be in the air, this 2M isn't going to help you, right? Which brings us to situational pokes, such as air normals. This is an air lariat. This can actually be a pretty good poke, because it covers a large amount of the space of the screen, and if it whiffs, you can cover it with an assist to also attack a landing and get you plus frames. If they block it in the air as well, you can nail it down with an assist. That is pretty situational, but it is going to serve you in that particular situation a lot better than his 2M, even though it's worse in every other conceivable category. 5S is a very, very, very heavily committal poke. This poke sucks terribly, except in one situation. Is your opponent throwing a lot of key blasts? Like, is your opponent like, all right, I'm going to just be Vegito today. You know, haha, I'm going to do this. Haha, do this, you know. Is a Vegito just being annoying? Is a Vegito just saying, I'm going to be a Cancer today? Well, there you go. Situational poke. That's a situational counter poke. You can... It's really tough to deal with a Vegito doing that with this beam, because this beam sucks. So you need to have good timing with it, but if you're Yasha, I've definitely seen him punish bad Vegitos with beam, because he just knew that they were going to do it, which is very, very important. This can help you deal with a lot. However, it's not a good poke in any way. This is also not a good poke, by the way, but it does reach full screen and does command and force a situation. So what makes a good poke? First of all, when we're evaluating a character and we're looking for a poke, we need to see how big of a commitment it is. Okay? This is a great poke. Arguably one of the best pokes in the game before Vegito 5M. This is a great poke. This is a great poke as well, because it just covers so much of the screen. It is very, very fast. It's very difficult to contest. And it's very strong. We like that. Now, he does also have this, but is this a great poke? No. Because it is far... Well, it's basically almost the same speed as 2M. 2M reaches farther. And the situation on block basically forces you to immediately go into Rekka, while 2M gives you a little bit of a mind game. If you're suicidal, you could stagger. Actually, 5M is not a bad stagger button, to be honest. Like, this button is really, really, really fun. Like, that frame trap is pretty big. See? Oh, never mind. Gogeta, let me be nice to you! Fuck! Gogeta, let me be nice. Or Gogeta, let me be nice to you. I'm trying to help you, man. Why do people think you're broken? But that same frame trap will probably, because that's heavy block stun. Does everything he... How fast is Rekka? It's 12 frames. It's 13 frames. Why? That should work. Recovery. That's why. Nice. That's cool. Okay. That's not a bad frame trap. You can condition a little bit of respect, but this has way more options. And overall, less recovery. Yeah, see? That's cool. That's cool. And it has way less recovery, so you can buy a little respect to reset back into 5L and start your pressure. Cool. Whatever pressure it is with this character, I guess. Here, Rekka is pretty much forced. You cannot do anything other than Rekka. Here, depending on if you use 2M, you can frame trap 5M. Go into Rekka, backdash. Like, you have more options of flexibility in your pressure here. All because you happen to win neutral, and you thought about the position afterwards. This is generally why 2M is considered a better poke than 5H, even though they perform more or less the same function. Is the same true for every other character, though? No. But this is how we can determine that's whether or not that's a good poke. Is this a good poke? It can be. I actually like it a lot, but it covers less space than 2M. It is less minus on whiff, and the hitbox is a little bit weird, and it commands a little bit less of the space. However, it does hit higher, so 5M, I would put it in my back pocket as a positional poke if I see somebody above me and I think I can hit them. I might just do that. Why not? His 2L is an amazing poke. Yeah, I guess it's 9 frames. Not bad. Safe on block. Okay. Hits round start as well. It's only a frame faster, or it's only 2 frames faster than this, and I think this is far more versatile, in my opinion. Because 2L has a pretty bad cancel window. However, you don't die if you whiff it, so that's good. And also low profile some stuff, so you know what, why not? Might be worth looking at. So why not? That's how we can determine that this is a, oh my gosh, 14 months in a row total from my favorite student. Hi, Crash. So, with Gogeta, pretty good, pretty obvious pokes. This is kind of a meme, right? Now, do we want to use this? Maybe if I'm catching backdash, or if an opponent is relying a lot on weaker projectiles, or if I'm about to catch a landing and I want to be lazy and do this, which just wastes meter and doesn't give me anything afterwards. I would still have to spend meter and an assist to technically win neutral. Maybe I can do it with... Oh, wow. Maybe if I... Okay. This is a potentially really good poke. The only issue with this, however, is just like Vegito, we have to think about the situation afterwards. It reaches full screen, covers more distance than 2M does, is very, very, very fast, but gives me nothing. See the issue? I have to complete the entire string. I cannot Rekka from here, which makes it a very weak poke. I have to spend an assist even if I do win neutral, and if I do win neutral with a hit, It side switches, which I may not want. I can get a cool conversion. I'm still probably getting a lot of damage. Let me see if I can figure out. I haven't played this character in a while. I don't know his combos. Wow, cool. Okay. I literally can't even dash forward. I just have to wait. Wow, that's... This character. Very interesting. Wonderful combos. I can see why you guys like him. Definite sauce. Something like that. It's just still a pretty good conversion. And not only that, but we have to think about the situation afterwards. 236H is his best win neutral. No, it's not. No, it's not. 5S gels into it too. It's really not his best. I don't want to see Gogeta's do this, and this is a reason you don't really see Yasha do this. Because just winning neutral is not enough. You do a lot of damage, and it scales really nicely, which I like. However, I actually have to spend more bar or spend a resource to end my turn. Which maybe isn't necessarily that big of a deal. And it could be a great way to kill. But there's not a lot of situations where this offers a better situation than... Oh, wait, no, he has new BMBs now. He can do... Right? Something like that. I have no idea how this character works. I have no idea how this character works, but... Well, not anymore. His new... To be clear, I don't know his new roots. I think I should would end it with J2 at that point, right? Okay, can't do that. But even me fucking around, right? Even me fucking around, I'm still doing a pretty considerable amount of damage, to be honest. Like, me playing around, not optimizing, is pretty crazy. And he can get the rejump here, if I'm not mistaken, right? I've seen Yasha do that. Like, he gets the rejump there, and then he does, like, he gets the rejump there, and then, probably converts, still gets knocked down. That does, like, maybe off of 2M, maybe like 5.4k, I want to say. Spend your resources, but at least you're getting an advantage. You don't want to spend your resources with your point character. That's the problem, KS Briar. You're thinking of the situation basically in black and white terms. And it's one of the biggest mistakes in a lot of neutral that I see in a lot of mid-level play and even some high-level play. You don't want to spend your resources if you don't get anything out of those resources. You're not getting much out of those resources. See, if I get blocked, I have to spend an assist to win neutral. But if I do this, I don't have to spend an assist. I can, and get a 50-50. But I don't even get a 50-50 if I 236H, and I spend bar for it. So I spend a bar for a weaker confirm. I get, you know, universal mix. Like, I can get, like, a cross-up, I can get, like, DR, or I can get, like, 5L stuff. But I don't get a 50-50 straight from neutral. You know what I mean? Which is unfortunate, because that is his biggest threat on block. I don't get access to the tools that makes him really, 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 really powerful. So, when you have that issue, even if 236H scales nicely, the situation is less likely to play out in your favor, and there's really no reason to do it because full screen options are a giant commitment when you can just simply move properly. Movement and universal movement pretty much removes the need to ever use 236H, and it strengthens his more general pokes like 2M, which is why I'm using Gogeta as an example. His 2M is very interesting, it's very powerful. 236H seems powerful, but it's really not. It's actually kind of weak. And because it's kind of weak, we have to really, really consider whether or not it's worth going for it and which situations it would really be helpful in. Now, if you land a straight beam, it's great. But beam itself is not the strongest of pokes, especially a beam that is as minus as his. If he jumps, I'm minus 21 when he lands after floating. As a result, the situation you get is less favorable. So you really don't want to be throwing that out willy-nilly, which is why you don't really see this play out a lot at higher levels. But I'm glad that we talked about it. That's why I like to use beams to catch opponents as they land after they've exhausted all their movement options. Right, but then at that point, why wouldn't you just run up into M? They're landing. You have way stronger options to do that lead to a stronger situation. The issue? So, because of that, we're going to talk about, now that we've started to identify the pokes, this character seems like he has pretty good forward momentum and high mobility, which is one of the reasons that we like him. As a point, A+. The reason why Blue Vegeta is here is as a comparison. Blue Vegeta has Ki Blasts. This is a different type of poke. This is very useful. It doesn't necessarily... It controls a certain amount of space. It controls full screen. As 2M will get sniped. Most of the time, nobody's going to land and then do this, because this has a high potential of whiffing, and your 2M may actually counter hit this if you're too close. So if I'm like right here, like if Vegeto's crouching, right? Let's just have him do that. Like, he stood up at the wrong time. Fuck it. Point is, if he's crouching, right? If he's crouching, see? It's very liable to whiff. And that's a crouching hurt box. 2Ms, especially certain 2Ms like Gogeta's, actually cause him to low profile. So it's very, very likely this will whiff against him if he's doing something like this. If you're fighting like a base Vegeta or a Blue Goku even, or a base Vegeta that have a steeper angle, things like this, you can get counter hit for that. When you land and you've exhausted your double jump options, it is usually in your best interest to surrender neutral in the first place. And we'll talk about surrendering neutral in another masterclass. But for right now, over poking is very dangerous. Because Gogeta, while we just talked about why this is such a good poke, it is still minus 40 on whiff. So doing this is a very easy way to get you killed. Somebody who's constantly pressing buttons, constantly trying to 2M in every way possible. Even something like Vegeto's 5M will eventually cause you to lose neutral if you spend it too much. So, what's the solution to this? We must become accurate with our pokes. Pokes are very, 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 very powerful against landing opponents. We've mentioned before in neutral, landing is your most vulnerable position. When you are landing, you are the most vulnerable you are in this game, especially if you spend your double jump. You have the fewest amount of options, especially if you normal jumped. If you normal jumped and spent your double jump, you can do nothing. You can commit to an air option, you can try to Rekka your way out, but it still might not save you against an opponent with superior positioning. And we'll see a match where that doesn't work out. If you super jump, you have a few more options. You can float in other directions and make your landing a little bit more ambiguous. As you can see, I'm slightly adjusting the trajectory mid-flight, which can make you a lot more difficult to catch, which is why you should always super jump. But at the end of the day, there's only so much you can control when Gogeta puts you in the entire range of his 2M, where no matter where I micro position here, it doesn't matter, I'm holding the 2M. Now, This is a great poke, but it does not perform the same function as Gogeta's 2M because it does not advance him. It controls a wide amount of space, way more space than Gogeta's 2M, but it's still not exactly as optimal. It's more advantageous. It's +9 if you're full screen. So here, -5, it's about as advantageous. It's more advantageous than 2M. You have fewer options, but you can theoretically confirm it with bar, or if you're close enough, you can confirm it with an assist. You can get reflected, however, so that does weaken it, but it is fantastic at gaining tempo. What do you mean by that? If Vegito does his usual Vegito things, that, you can't do anything about it. Now, if he does this, I'm even on block. He's even slightly farther away. I'm +3. The situation's basically plus. So even though I threw out a commitment option, unlike 5M and unlike others, unlike 5M and other pokes that are more grounded and more forceful, I can maintain my tempo here, even though I basically just committed to an option. That is the advantage of Ki Blast. It is very good at stopping approaches and letting you gain tempo to begin yours, which is why you'll often see Vegetas do, especially base Vegetas, do that. A very egregious and famous example of this would be Blue Goku, who can simply do... And he's +14. So he can stop you and then immediately attack you with his 2M. Or he can do this. He can even do this. Basically, if you block a Ki Blast from Blue Goku or characters like him, you are being threatened. You can cancel a Whiffed 5S into 236S2. I don't want to get level 3. So maybe don't do that. I don't think it's that powerful unless your opponent super dashes. If your opponent super dashes you, which is a good way to deal with it, then 236S is very, very, very powerful. However, be careful throwing it out in neutral if you don't know that your opponent's going to commit to an option or not. Because if you throw it out and they don't commit to anything, you can just get raw level 3. So, in this regard... Anyway, in this regard, which is pretty funny, Vegeta doesn't have any strong grounded pokes, which means that for his best pokes to work, which would be 5H, his 5H is amazing, but it's still not really as good as, you know, the other blues. However, the situation on block is far more favorable than the other blues because, unlike Gogeta, he has a Ki Blast that he can frame trap and play a mind game with. Meaning, if he does this, he's -1. Why is this important? Because Ki Blasts generally lead to a reflect. You don't have to hold this. If they respect it, you can actually reset your pressure and go back into WTG pressure, the homework. So even though 5H isn't as, even though his 5H is a less versatile button to win neutral with, for Vegeta, he makes it work because of the sheer amount of options that he has, making this a pretty effective poke in the mid-range. A very effective poke. They have to respect his ranges here. It's also fairly quick. If he hits you with this, he can DR as well. Because if you go for a reflect, he can punish the reflect by going for DR. He can abuse respect by going for a cross up like that, which is pretty cursed. Because he plays with spacing. Oops. What frame does 214 come out in the air? 214? I actually don't know. He would have to get hit. You would have to ask a blue Vegeta player, but it looks pretty slow. So, now, why is this a big deal? Because at that point, just, you know, don't reflect, right? Well, if you don't reflect, he can really abuse your respect. Because he gets a 50-50 immediately out of his Rekka, unlike Blue Vegeta. Or I'm sorry, unlike Blue Gogeta. Or, yeah, so Blue Gogeta can't do this. He has to do this, basically. 236 LM or 236 MM to get his 50-50. He just has to do this. He does 236, he does 236, M, gets a high-low. Which is pretty nice. Now, the situation on block is very, very, very strong, making this a pretty effective poke. However, he would still struggle in the mid-range against certain characters, like Blue Goku, Vegeta, basically anyone on the screen except him. But we can use Blue Vegeta as a great example of thinking about the situation outside of block. Does he have any other pokes? Well, 5M doesn't reach very far. This is a joke. This is pretty good. That's a joke. That's a joke. His JM is pretty good to contest aerial space with and, you know, get an aerial poke. Like, if he sees you land, he can IAD in, which is pretty nice. But this is infinitely worse in every way. It does not reach full screen. Oh, thank you so much for the gift sub, Kamui. I appreciate it. By the way, what are your thoughts on the new coach on Twitter? I think his name is Sephir. I don't know if I want to answer that question on stream because I don't want to start drama. But anyway. Anyway, so pokes, pretty fun. Now, this is a good poke. However, like I was mentioning before, it does lose out to bigger buttons, which is one of the bigger reasons why people worry about. Like, how do I win neutral against all of these Gogeta players, these Vegito players, Labcoat 21, Blue Goku? Like, how am I supposed to win neutral on them, right? Like, how do we win neutral when they are throwing out their big pokes? Well, very simple. We play neutral. Oh boy, is stuff actually educational? Wait, Takibi, do you know this person? Oh, wow. There's some violence in my chat. Anyway, so how do we play neutral? Well, basically through what every person who's played another fighting game will call it, is footsies. Basically, this is useless, and I have to be inside of his 2M range to use it, right? So what if I stay just outside of his 2M range? So his 2M range is about right here, right? So Blue Goku, we're going to set it to quick, actually. Blue Goku does this, right? Let's see what the tip range is. So that reaches very far. All right, that spaces him out pretty considerably, right? Thing is, against a good player, no one's going to throw out 2M without dashing forward first here, right? So if he does something like that, he still can't quite reach. He has to dash a little bit more. So the problem that you end up with here is if you're fighting a good player, why would they throw out 2M if you're not in their range? You kind of have to start taking a risk, right? So you kind of have to be right here. Now, if I'm right here, even walking back will get me hit. If I'm right here, even backdashing will get me hit. His poke goes through me. So where I want to be as a player is right here. Now that's very close, right? But if we're paying attention to the position, we're paying attention to tempo. Like, notice how I have him jump to indicate that. If in a real situation, you could end up like, or like, you know, that. You can end up in this position, right? You've seen Blue Goku. Like, I've done this to people before. So this is a real Blue Goku thing. Yeah, see, he's not going to 2M me there. I would have to be about right here, which is where Blue Goku wants to land, because that's going to hit me. And you jump just out of the way. Now, this won't punish, but in this position, oops, my bad. Hey, Blandy. Yeah. He's putting me in range of his 2M range, right? Just outside the tip range. If I'm a little bit closer, about right here, I'm in danger in that position here, right? So here, I can avoid it pretty easily. Here, I'm very unsafe. But I have enough time to react because I can pay attention to the fact that he jumped, so I could retreat to safety. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to jump back regardless of what this Blue Ku does, because if I don't want to contest him, I want to make sure I can remove the threat and get him off of me, and make sure that he has to move again in order to attack me. So, if I see a Blue Goku jump forward like this, and he puts me in his 2M range, I want to get out of it. However, if I want to counter poke, I can stay in his 2M range and wait for him to commit to an option, and then counter poke. See? So I put him in my range now if he does nothing. Or I can just jump out. And it's ambiguous. So, in this position, and by the way, this movement pattern may look familiar, right? You're probably like, hey, where have I seen that before? This is Kaiden's famous movement pattern. Kaiden does this all the time when he was still playing. And that's the reason he would jump forward, by the way. He would jump forward to put himself and his pokes in range. He would also simultaneously take space and air dash back to deal with aggression. Sometimes he would do that to beat the super dash, because that's what a lot of people would do if they saw an IID back like that. So, to break it down, Kaiden jumps forward after a dash. He dash jumps forward, and then we'll either IID back, IID forward, or do whatever he wants. But the dash puts him in range. He's now in range of Blue Ku assist. I'm sorry, not Blue Ku assist, Blue Ku 2M. Then he's going to jump. He's even deeper in range, but that poke is no longer as effective. And then he's going to ID back. If Blue Ku dashes to try to put him and keep him in range of his 2M, which Blue Ku absolutely should, he can simply do this to jump to the other side and create more distance. If he's very, 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 very good, he can do something like that, which you've seen Yasha do, where you've seen Yasha literally use his 236H as Vegito to escape and create more distance for the opponent. Yeah, you're not predicting the opponent's tempo. Your opponent doesn't have tempo because we know the system of the game. Hey, Toby. Oh, Ken's not... Star Ken. I actually just called Star Ken. I'm very tired. Star's not with me today. Star went back to France. I'm very sad about it. I miss my boy. Hashtag bring Star back. Maybe I should just make a sub goal. Instead of it being Fridge, it should just be Star salary. So that way I could actually pay him half. Because I would like to start doing that. But regardless. Woo! So this is why movement patterns like the ones that you see the French players and the Japanese players employ exist. They put themselves just briefly in range, but with enough tempo that they can safely retreat from the poke if necessary. This is how you're going to counter poke. Fuck you, Dimensional. Shit, you're making me curse on my own stream. This is supposed to go up on YouTube, man. I hate you. Yeah. So, this is how we can move, if we have shorter buttons, by briefly stepping into their range and incentivizing them to use their poke, and then putting them in our range because they don't know if I'm going to jump back or 5H. Just make it a star power meter. Lol, that would be brilliant. That would be brilliant. I kind of want to start making ambitious donation goals, and I'm curious if we would be able to meet it. Like, I'm really curious how far I can push the donation goals, especially if we start making, like, a lot of content, which we will talk about at the end of the stream. But you guys are about to get a lot of content. Like, a lot. Anyway, but yeah, just like you mentioned, you're correct. By understanding their landing, you can move out of the way. And you can be very difficult to catch. We can be very difficult to catch in this regard. And by simply moving around, we can avoid these pokes. This is actually how you deal with Vegito. Because Vegito, if he decides to 5M, right? See? Safe. Now, are we punishing him? No. But we've gone over that. The point is, he can 5M again. So what if he just does something really, really, really stupid, right? What if Vegito just wants to be Vegito and does... something like that, right? We now have control over the interaction because he still whiffed. Fuck. Wow. And we can create even further distance because we can just do that. And if we call an assist, we can run up and confirm. Especially if it's a very fast assist like a Lariat assist. Now, it's like trying to make your opponent to try something which could potentially lead to a whiff punish. You could look at it that way. Now, a good opponent isn't necessarily always going to poke, which is why it's very, very important to talk about not over poking. You don't want to over poke. If you over poke, you end up in situations like this Vegito just did, which is I'm going to press 5M and then press 5M again like an animal, right? Like I'm just gonna be an animal. And you don't want to do that when we have such high hit stun assists now. Now, what this Vegito could have done would be something like this, which brings us to the penultimate section of our masterclass. This is the second to last section. This is a very, very, very big one. Exactly. You're correct, Briar. And smart opponents will have counterplays ready. Precisely. They're going to look for an overcommitment, and they're going to punish you for it, even if it's Vegito 5M. Even if the punishment isn't necessarily a hit, which it should be, still, winning neutral against a Vegito is still very powerful, because if you are pressuring a Vegito, you can kill them. Oh, goodbye, Chaos. Thanks, by the way. Yeah, sorry about that, Chaos. I'll keep that in mind. So, like, in this position, right? You end up in, or like in these positions, you can end up baiting your opponent's movement options and their commitment options, and that's why you will see Vegeta and Wawa strategically use their 5M. So basically, to wrap everything up in a bow for what we've just talked about, we're going to talk about accuracy. How do we get accurate with our pokes? Because this is very, very important. We don't always want to throw stuff out. So when do we know when to throw something out? A very good rule of thumb is pay attention to your opponent's tempo. If your opponent just whiffs something, if they just backdashed, if they just committed to something, just go ahead and do your thing. For example, in this position, if Vegito IDs back, right? He can't really ID back 5M. right? If he's like right here. No, fuck. Didn't work. Fuck. See? He doesn't have the time. And ideally, you would want to keep him in range. You would want to keep him in range of one of your pokes. So, this is where we start talking about all of our different pokes. You need to find the longest poke you have, which for Vegeta is 236M. If you see your opponent backdashing away from you and you know that they like to retreat, put them in range where their backdash will not escape your longest poke. So, something like, well, it's so slow. I hate this character. Alright, we're getting off Vegeta. You know what? Chat, I'll let you pick my character. What character do we want to see poke here? Let's replace Vegeta with a good character. Who do we want to see? Beerus. Damn. Frame 1. Frame 1, Blake. I barely finished asking the question. Base Goku. Nah, fuck Base Goku. I don't like Base Goku. SSJ Goku. SSJ Goku is just basically Blueku. Red Gogeta. Someone with bad pokes. Someone with bad pokes? I don't know if there's a character with bad pokes necessarily. Every character is pretty decent, to be honest. Yeah, every character is pretty decent. I can't, like, I'm scrolling down the list. I mean, I guess Android 17 would have bad pokes. Hit. Alright, Kefla's the first one that got 2, so I'm just gonna pick my girl, I guess. Oh wait, no, SSJ Vegeta also got 2, shit. I'll replace Vegeta with SSJ Vegeta, fine, fuck it. I was looking for this character and he's the second one. I'm tired. Because it gives him other approach options. Not really. It really doesn't. Yeah, he would have to dash, so this would be a more realistic situation. Yeah. Thank you, June Legacy, for the follow. I appreciate it. There you go. There you go. Tempo. But 236L doesn't really reach very far. The strongest poke you have as SSJ Vegeta is obviously going to be... Who wants to guess? What am I going to do? By them? Okay, but if he just does this, right? He completely... It's not a lot I can do. Saber. Being very smart. Yes. And press 1 if this has been you, Vegito players. If you pressed 5M thinking it was a win neutral button and you got stopped by something slow as shit. What are you talking about, Takibi? I've hit you out of your 5M. You have literally been in this position! What do you mean? Bro! You... Takibi. Star and I bullied you for like 3 hours, man. You threw out 5M once, and you were afraid to do it again! Takibi! I'll make sure to do it to you next time. How about that? "5S is a very good poke, and it's a very great way to deal with the retreat. Now, what if he deals with aggression? Oops. Fuck. You can do this. And suddenly, bye. Uh-oh. So if you maintain this distance, you can actually punish Vegito. But only if you maintain that distance. Nope, don't do that. That would be mean. Lol. Can you imagine? Anyway, so how do we manage our pokes? Well, one way to manage your opponent's poke is to maintain what I like to call respectful distance. Meaning, when I play a Vegito, and it range changes depending on the characters. When I play a Vegito, I like to be around here. This is still inside of his 5M range, but while I can't react to it necessarily, I can pay attention to the position. So if he just lands, I'm just going to maintain this distance and get ready to move back. This is going to be my default thing. I'm going to backdash, because I can backdash safely here. I'm going to be careful. I'm going to pay attention to what he wants to do. But I want to maintain this distance generally around Vegito. So the distance that I'm shimmying, because this is, as you can see, pretty optimal if you know what a Vegito is going to do. Very, very, very powerful stuff. Especially if you can counter poke. Wow, this needs way more recovery. We will talk more about respectful distances in another neutral masterclass when we revisit approaches and retreats. However, this is how you can begin to conceive of dealing with Vegito. And now I'm going to show you some matches later that will help you understand. Does 2M go farther? Yes, but it is slow as shit. So he still doesn't really have time to do anything. Now, how do we counter poke? We counter poke exactly like this. Like if we know we keep him in his range, if we know he's minus, he has to be mindful of our ranges now. If he steps into our range and he doesn't have the positional advantage or a tempo, or if he's going to land, we're going to keep him in his pokes. And that's how we can develop accuracy, by paying attention to the tempo and keeping him in range of our pokes while keeping ourselves at a distance where we can safely avoid his. Now, that sounds easy to do, right? But it's probably really, really, really hard. We're going to be working on that in the coming weeks because neutral is a very broad topic. However, I'm going to show you how the pros play, and we're going to review some of these matches, and that is how we will learn how to take what they do and essentially punish, or at the very least, win neutral against these really annoying blue-haired fusion players. That sounds nice, doesn't it? I wanted to talk about timing of the pokes today, but I feel like that's going to be a subject all on its own when we talk about attack timings, which now I realize is probably a very broad topic. But did you guys feel like you learned a little bit today on how to use your pokes, how to identify pokes? Do you guys have any questions for me? Yes, I agree. The best fusion has green hair. Kefla Supremacy, let's go. Now, Kefla actually has one of the scariest pokes in the game. This. An unreactable, near full screen low lariat. That is stupidly easy to convert off of. Personally, I still prefer EX full screen moves that are very powerful to win neutral. You are not going to get very, like, with the utmost respect, like, I'm not trying to insult you, but as you get better, you're going to realize that that is extremely limited. And it's so limited that it's going to end up costing you games as you improve, especially if you start playing higher level opponents. How are Piccolo pokes? Very bad. It's one of the reasons why people, including Hook, may not necessarily play this character. Piccolo doesn't suck, but Piccolo's neutral is rough. I'm not going to pretend like it isn't. Ah, that's really tough, actually. Lab coat carries me. She should not be carrying you. Hmm. 4.2k off of that. It's actually kind of... Why? I'm playing the team you recommended me a while ago, Ken. It's been helping me with some of this. Excellent. I don't remember what the team is. It's not the most rewarding way against neutral against high-level players, but it bypasses having to whiff something that didn't go full screen. The thing is you don't have to whiff something at all. You can just simply be more accurate with the pokes that you have at a shorter range and maneuver the situation so that way you can actually win by moving. Universal movement is incredibly important to refine, and if you rely on full screen EX moves, not only are you more likely to whiff, but you're probably going to die if you do. And waste half a bar doing it. Like, the risk-reward doesn't seem heavily skewed in your favor. Of course, I'm talking strictly from a high-level perspective. It's a pretty big chunk of damage. Right, I'm talking about opponents who are good at zoning and keeping you from approaching them. Again, universal movement makes zoning really dangerous, even if they're Vegito, even if they're Lab Coat 21. Like, there's really no situation I could think of where a full screen EX move is better than universal movement and cheaper options. I mean, don't get me wrong, I play Kefla. So there are definitely some EX moves that are worth it. Like if you play Bardock's Lariat, if you do like for example 236H, like this is fine. That's not a big deal. However, I'm speaking strictly if you're a Gogeta doing this. This is probably not worth it. Especially because like on whiff, it's me. See? And it's so easy to accidentally whiff if you're not careful. Because, like, if you do this to catch a landing from full screen, right? That's fine. However, just dash to M, you know? Like, it's half a bar, but it also beats Key Blast, is safe on block, and she gets out of mind game without spending assist or resources. Not necessarily. I'm glad that we brought up Labco 21. Hey, when do you think you can do the counterplay thing you posted on Twitch? Probably, I'm going to try. No, I can't do Saturday. It's probably going to be the next stream I do with Star. I work this Saturday, so I'm not going to be able to do that with him, and it's Easter. But, yeah. You might have recommended it, but you told me some characters how to play them. Okay. Doesn't beat 2H, though. Lol. Yeah. So here's the problem with this, right? Here's the problem with this, right? This is really good, right? Let's give her half a bar. Press 1 if you think that this is really broken and overpowered. In that position, like that lariat in this position, because this is zoning 2, 3, 6, 8, right? I'm going to show you guys something you guys may not have realized. If I block everything... No, I don't have to. Her 214H being frame 1 anti-air is definitely busted. Yes, it is. It is really stupid, but that is not a poke. That is a reversal. That is something very different, and if you use it as a poke, you're risking a lot. But it is very powerful with dealing with people trying to, like, come in from above. But Lab Coat 21 is a very different situation. 214H's got some funky behavior. Yes, it does. There we go. God, I should really probably practice this character so that way I can play him and then complain about him. To be fair, it is tricky to whiff punish. Like, you're not always going to do that in every situation. But again, you can manage it the same way. You could pretty much... Like, this has a big issue. The biggest issue is not only its lack of recovery, it's its fucking hitbox. It is way too overtuned, and it is too strong. Like, this hitbox needs to be finished and refined, in my opinion. But beyond that, I don't really think it's that strong as a poke. People aren't whip punishing 214H enough. Oh, yeah, the lariat. No, I agree. Yeah, fair enough. Ah, that doesn't work. Okay, cool. Ah, that doesn't work either. Hum minus is a whiffed 214H. Very. But she recovers in the air, I think. No. Okay. Because it says 1 upon landing. Nah, she's... If I block... Yeah, no, she's minus 40. Yeah. This... So 21 is a character that a lot of people are afraid of. And they should be. Because this is the most broken mechanic in the game. Watch my YouTube video on it. However, as a character, this is powerful, but it's pretty much just as strong as Vegeta's. It's a frame faster. This is a good angle. This is underutilized a lot. And it's very good for zoning because you can cancel into the reversal if they super dash, which is nice. However, she does have some big weaknesses. Her pokes, while they reach very far, this is her best one, and it gets 2H'd. This reaches decently far, but it is extremely minus, and it is very slow. These are multi-hit normals. They have okay range, but they're very slow, and they are a heavy commitment for her. She has to vanish out of them. This is powerful. That is a stupid poke. It is also very fast. It's also a little bit of a commitment. But this is basically Vegito's 2M. Here's another thing that a lot of people didn't know. I didn't know this until recently, by the way. Want to see something cool? Oops. Fuck. Too slow. It loses to anything with heavy property, as long as it's active before she reaches them. So 5H is actually a decent counter poke against this if you manage to space it out. If you're not Vegeta, that is. And not Gogeta, because I forget that this is not slow, but he has a traveling hurt box. Whatever, Kefla supremacy. It's fine. Which makes 5H's a particularly good poke against her. It is a particularly good poke against 21, to be honest. So if you're the kind of person like me and you're Blue Goku, instead of 2M'ing, here's my secret. When I fight 21s and I'm Blue Goku, I don't 2M at 5H. I have actually accidentally beaten out so many lariats. It's kind of mean, actually. I start feeling bad after a while. But yes. Anyway, guys. I hope you enjoyed this rather shorter masterclass. I'm not ending it yet. However, I do want to put some principles in action because I want to see you. I want to show you some interesting stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and close this, and we're going to open the browser. You guys can see my jazz little playlist here. Hope you guys like the jazz music, by the way. I think it's a little bit less sleepy than the chill hop, to be honest. And it kind of gives us Café LeBlanc vibes, doesn't it? So, I'm going to show you a couple of sets. A couple of matches from different sets, because I want to show you something from Season 3, and I want to show you something from Season 4. Okay? These are going to be from Wanted, guys. I'm going to put up a streamable link. I'm sorry, a Nightbot link. Nightbot.tv. I'm going to put up Damascus's Twitch on my Nightbot. I want you guys to go follow him. Wanted is going to be tomorrow, I believe, at 12 or 1 p.m. Eastern Standard or Central Standard Time. So, like, you know, make sure you have a time zone necessary for him, or like the time. Make sure you have his time zones down and make sure you convert it, because I'm terrible at that. To be honest, I should probably get better. But basically, watch Wanted. It is fantastic. Make sure to catch it live, guys. But make sure to catch his stuff live. And obviously support his stream. Damascus is a really, really nice person. So do your best to show him some love, okay? There we go. We're going to enable that link. Okay. So right here, we're going to watch Kaiden versus Wawa, the run back, the most recent set that they did. Excellent neutral win. I don't know if I should use this match, actually, because it's kind of dominant. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. So we're going to watch Kaiden versus Wawa, different set. Do you have any thoughts on Bum Real Talk about Damascus? Yes. I think it's very, very important. So I'm gonna segue. I'm sorry. I'm gonna get off of this as quickly as possible, guys, because I know you guys are not here for drama. And honestly, we will be talking more about certain broader issues that Bum presents rather than talking about him specifically. But if you guys want to know my thoughts on... Didn't want to do that. There is a VOD. As of right now, at the time of recording, that's just going to create some weird feedback. At time of recording, guys... Oh, yeah. Let's pretend that didn't happen. Let's see. I don't even know how to access my own VODs. Point is, it's going to be in the VODs. This is the most recent one before this one. Go ahead and watch it. It is still up, and I do plan on uploading it on YouTube. It is very long, though. But I can give you a quick TLDR. I think it is incredibly hypocritical, and I think Bum's community needs to hold him more accountable. Oh, that's funny. That's just straight up elevator music. I think this is like a YouTuber's track, I think. Let's see. So, we've watched this set before, but this time, instead of paying attention to their positioning, I want you to pay attention to how often they poke. So the JH is to prevent super dash. So right here, this is technically not a poke. The moment both of them go for something, super dash, which is a heavy commitment, and the JM here, it's almost converted. Now we go for a poke, it whiffs, an air poke, but notice how Wawa is very, very, very careful. His pokes are extremely accurate. They're covering the space that they need to, and when he actually does them, he either lands them or almost lands them. There's no overcommitment on Wawa's end here. And there's no overcommitment on Kaiden's end either. Notice how he's not poking a lot. That was an inappropriate poke, and it got punished. Like, do you guys see how, like, little in frequency the pokes are? Like, I would show you a match from Bums, but I really don't feel like dealing with that. Because I do want to create a counter example, but I could probably just use a 12v12, actually. I can show you what overpoking looks like, and let's see if it works out. So the first match is going to be between Falzard and I don't know who this is. Not Hook. Do you mind making the full video full screen? Yes, I do. I'm not going to make it full screen for a reason, and that's because if I see something I like, I want to be able to bring this out when I can. So right here, already we have a very aggressive round start, and we have a full-on commitment to a poke that is not even close to hitting. Like, that would have whiffed, and Blue Goku could just... This position's already very tenuous at best, because Blue Goku can literally just IID back JS, and that's a free confirm. Let's see if he spent his double jump. He did. He can literally just JS. Like, you do not have the time to do that. But he banks it on an anti-air, or like he does 214L. This is another example of tempo, by the way. Falzar did not have the correct tempo here. He had the time to do it, but he did it way, way, way too late and ended up getting punished by 214L, even though it could have been, you know, he could have anti-aired it. Okay, we have a hit. Is this Christmas music? Yeah, I'm just skipping that. It's distracting. Nice. Okay, guard cancel. Another example of poor tempo, by the way. Vegeto's. This is an example of when you don't have the tempo to do something. I'm going to slow this down so that way we can see exactly what happened. Oh, that's the wrong option. Playback speed. We're going to slow this down to 70.75. I think that's enough to be able to keep track of the movements because everything is very fast in this game. So we go boom, 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 boom. Okay. We guard cancel. Bowser did not have the tempo for this. And Bowser lost. Right there, because Bowser, instead of paying attention to the position, committed to a poke. He's trying too desperately to punch his opponent rather than navigate the position. So what could have Bowser done here that would have been a little bit better for him, that would have resulted in him not dying? Well, he could have done this. If he had IAD backed, he could have JH'd, IAD back, catch the whiff, and then chase him out with 5M. This position could have been managed entirely differently if Bowser just respected the fact that Alekovich had tempo and just moved back rather than trying to aggress when he doesn't have the time to do so. He's lucky he didn't get TOD'd. Good catch on the reflect. Alekovich is playing well. Some slight inaccuracies on both ends, but at the very least, Alekovich has been consistently hitting Bowser, which I like so far. You think Vegeto's success could have hit earlier? No. You should not be poking there. So here's the problem that I'm seeing, KS, that I need to caution you. You are thinking too much. You are thinking way too much about simply hitting your opponent without thinking about the situation that you create when you do. He hits with success. And then what? The round just began. He's in meter penalty. He just spent meter on the guard cancel. He has no bar. He can't even vanish success, even if it does hit. The best case scenario doesn't work. Yeah, he could frame trap with 5H and then 236L, but he can't take his turn back after that. And staggering from 5H, while risky, and you could do it, it's not a good idea. It's not a good idea. He could frame trap with 5H and go into 5S and reset pressure. Assuming he has the tempo to do that, what if Blue Goku decided to shoulder instead? His 5S is still a Ki Blast. I believe Blue Goku goes through 5S, right? I actually have to lab that interaction. Whatever. Questions for later. But point being, there's no situation where that would have been advantageous. The smartest thing to do would probably just to back off and respect the fact that your opponent has a distance. You were trying too hard to hit your opponent. And you are taking an unnecessary risk because you don't want to respect the fact that they have an advantage. That is a very bad mentality, and it can get you killed in a lot of high-level matches, as we saw with Falzard, because Falzard kept losing for that exact mentality. You have to respect when your opponent has an advantage. You have to let your opponents play, guys. Otherwise, they prevent you from playing. It really did. See, now this is Alekovich not respecting that his opponent has an advantage and not respecting his opponent's options. That is a bad move against SSJ4 Gogeta. That is something that you must keep in mind at all times. You need to understand your opponent's options when you play neutral for them, because their pokes are potentially optimal against what you want to do. You need to keep that in mind. watching Gogeta combos in the speed. That was a great poke right here. A great counter poke from Alekovic. Bought himself some tempo. Wonderful counter poke. Bought himself some tempo. He can dash in. If he had 2M there, that would have been bad. We're going to talk about threats. Threats is another big one coming. Wonderful counter pokes. Yeah, these are great. This is great stuff from Alekovic. Being very careful, managing his distance very carefully, using JS properly, which is really, really good. I liked it. Good stuff. Good stuff. I chef's kiss. I chef's kiss. We like this. We like this a lot. Good DR. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I'll give it to him. Alekovic, you gotta block those, man. Alekovic has potential. I actually like Alekovic's neutral a lot. More so than a lot of Americans' neutral. Like, that's unfortunate. See? Wonderful. Great example of using Lariat to create space. Very, very, very smart move. That super dash was less smart, though. That was a bit greedy. You don't want to do this. And he's lucky because he got off lucky. He got off lightly because that's a C assist. Gogeta could just counter. Also, a more aware player could easily jab that, but you know, it'd be like that. It'd be what it be. That's an unreasonable. Come on. Come on. Why? 1,000. Okay. Oh God. The 20 that level 1 is an eyesore in the speed. Okay, let's see. Let us see. This is bad. This is very bad. But Bowser tried to do to us. Why? Dog. That's 2 bars. Why is it hitting? Okay, that's fine. It's neutral. And by the way, yes. Somebody asked me if Piccolo has good pokes. His 5H is broken. 5H is a great poke. It's very fast. So right here is a great example of what we were talking about. If Alekovic had the awareness to actually backdash this, he would have won neutral. It's stuff like this that makes Vegito seem broken, right? But look how he 5M'd, and then the 5M whiffed again. And it actually hit Broly. That's unfortunate. So right here, we could actually see these interactions play out. Alekovic had the correct tempo. You see how you can kill these blue-haired monkeys now, right? Like, Alekovic could have done it, but not with the option he chose. I probably would have floated forward, to be honest, and then called Broly. But Piccolo doesn't really have a lot of counterplay here. All right, now let's watch another good match for a good contrast. Yasha versus Wawa is always a very exciting matchup to see. And we'll go with an offline event. Let's take a look at their neutral together. So let's see how they navigate neutral. Kind of messy. I'm not sure I like these positions, to be honest. I think the beginning of this match was a little bit messy. So right here, you have Yasha reflecting, basically to avoid a poke. But notice how little Wawa's poking. And then when Wawa does the first poke, it connects. I mean, Yasha connected too, but he was not able to convert it properly. But that is what I mean when I say accuracy. They're not like pressing 2M every 5 seconds. You're not going to see the Vegito 5M every 5 seconds and whatnot. You will see a couple like 5M, 5Ms most likely. But you're not going to see that too often. Good tech. Right here. Great example of spacing as well. You can't really do much. You're in the dead zone. Right there is a classic example, even by the top player in the entire world, of an over poke. This is too much poking now. You overcommitted to that poke. So Yasha's jailed down into the corner. Let's see if we can see any more examples. Wonderful. Look at this. Maintaining optimal distance from Wawa. Look at this wonderful maintenance of distance here. And he goes for a powerful counter poke. That could have been 2H'd. That does get 2H'd. Very, very, very nice. So you have a very scrambly. It becomes scrambly in the end, but you can see right here, perfectly managing Vegito. Now, I know it's kind of facetious to be like, oh, you want to deal with Vegito? Just play like Wawa. Lol, lol, lol. But the thing is the things and principles that Wawa's applying are things that once you know how to do, you can begin applying to your own games pretty quickly. This is not difficult at all, as long as you maintain a really respectful distance. So you see how he's maintaining this distance right here? Very, very important. And of course, Gogeta has options to traverse that as well. And Wawa plays an assist to cover the commitment. Unfortunately, Yasha, in order to not die, ends up dying. You ever just die trying to not die?
All the time.
All right, we have pressure. Okay. That's it. It's fine. Now, how do we manage Vegito? So notice how we don't get like a round start 5M. Notice how patient everyone is. You don't get any crazy pokes. Look how patient. Like, you would expect him to play like a Vegito player, just 5M the entire time, right? But no. Wawa is being very, very patient. Only seems to 5M in pressure, really. Overpoking. So Yasha's really overpoking now. That is a bit too much of a poke because he's really trying to get the hit. But Wawa remains patient and keeps it very, very, very clean and very, very interesting. And of course, goes for a pin and lets it go. Yep, just move away. Create distance, maintain distance. And right there, uses his 5M. The first 5M that we see in neutral, but it connects. It is a wonderful whiff punish. Any other button, even 5L would have worked here. And most other characters would have a medium that can actually punish here at this range as well. So despite it being a broken button, and yeah, it's 8 frames or whatever, the 5M is used in a situation that's pretty universal. A lot of characters would be able to connect a medium here. Well, yeah, they're some of the best players in the world. I would hope that they know their ranges. right, 2M finds its mark. Wonderful weight. Wonderful weight. Wawa's so good at this. Notice how there hasn't really been a lot of 5Ms. Both of them are very patient. There's a 5M, and notice how both of them whiffed. And notice how careful they are around each other. Not only that, but Yasha's whiffing a lot of pokes, and notice how consistently Wawa is dominating neutral with assist and accuracy. These last two matches, we have seen Yasha overcommit to poking. Way, way too much. That's actually a weakness. And I'm pretty sure most people would not expect to hear that word talking about probably the best player on the planet. Like, what do you mean weakness? But it is. And you're seeing Yasha almost consistently lose for it. So Wawa is purposely delaying because he's hoping he'll catch Yasha doing something. But basically every time, almost every time Yasha has held an assist, Wawa had the potential to win neutral completely. Also, the position is not very favorable. You really don't want to end up pressuring Vegito in the corner as Vegito. It's not a fun situation. But you guys are probably seeing, like, wow, why? Like, look, their blue-haired characters are on the screen. The characters that everyone is saying they need to get, like, nerfed or whatever, or they need to be, like, you know, banned from tournaments. And no, they're doing incredibly well. Like, they're managing very well, and their tools almost don't seem that broken when you understand how to maintain proper distance, understand tempo, and counter poke. Look at that, beautiful. I hope that watching this back or this class has made some of you a little bit less afraid of the blue-haired Saiyans, at the very least. Like, they're still threatening, don't get me wrong, they're still very powerful, but I don't want you to feel hopeless about the game. If we improve our movement, learn the basic fundamentals of high-level movement, learn tempo, I think we'll be just fine. And I think it's okay if we have to raise the skill ceiling a little bit in order to start beating the things that are degenerate in this game. Now, that doesn't mean I don't think Vegito needs to be adjusted. Vegito does. That 5M needs more recovery. In my opinion, it should just revert it because that 5M is almost a nerf in a couple of ways because it really hurts his pressure. At least compared to the way it was before. I'm literally going to dye my hair blue. Nice. Know your ranges, guys. Know your ranges. Good pin. Great fucking assist. Yasha, like, wow. Yasha's so good. Why is Yasha so good at this game? He could have converted that. That would have been beautiful. That would have been a beautiful conversion. Yasha's so good at this game. Accuracy. Okay, that 5M catches. And I hope, with that in mind, guys, I hope this helps you make you makes hopes. I hope this helps make you a little bit less afraid of the Saiyans and the meta. It is manageable, guys. We will get through this. Hopefully, they announce a new patch soon. But I want to make content that helps you guys get the tools you need, so that way you can start having fun with this game again. That's kind of my goal. A little bit of an update for the channel, guys. We're going to start streaming a lot more often. I'm going to find a way, potentially this week, next week at the latest, where Star, who's now back in his home in France, he's going to start streaming from WTG on off days that I normally don't. So you guys are going to get basically double the content, and the content that we're both doing is going to be completely different from one another. I'm still going to be handling the master classes. I'm still going to be handling the educational stuff, and I'm still going to be handling the ring match evaluations. But Star is going to start streaming basically a little bit more variety and more relaxed streams. He's going to do match analysis. He's going to do ranked and casual streams, so you guys get to see him play a lot more often and apply the principles that we teach here and answer questions about them. You guys are going to see him basically prep and train for Wanted. You guys will see his prep. We intend to have like casual matches with French players as well when he decides to play them. So you guys will see a lot more of Star. You guys will get to talk to him. If they're in the EU, he will probably speak some French as well. So it's going to be fun. He's going to have a Vados thing up in his little icon besides the Whis. So it's going to be pretty fun. And I really hope you guys can join us on this content journey and continue to support us with views, like and subscribe, retweet our stuff, help us get out there a little bit, because we wanted to start doing more community content. I'm also going to start gearing the content more towards educational content and trying to build the community a little bit. And we're also going to have more serious streams where instead of talking about the game, we'll talk about the FGC as a whole. I will have a lot of guests coming on in order to talk about the game. I want to get more female guests to come on and talk about their experiences in the FGC and what we can do in order to improve it, because that's something I'm very, very passionate about doing and making it feel like a safe environment for everyone. If you guys want to join a really lovely environment where a lot of people are thinking just like you and have a lot of a lot of high level experience, or they're trying to get high level experience, thank you so much. What if Cell had the stance? That would be terrifying, by the way.
No, only I can have the stance. Nobody else. That's a terrifying thought.
Yeah. But I want you guys to join us on that journey. I think it'll be really, really fun. I want you guys to stick around for the content. So definitely keep in mind, it's definitely going to be a turning point for WTG. I'm hoping with this new growth, we might be able to, at the very least, meet different donation goals. And I'm hoping maybe, just maybe, we can maybe get partnered by the end of the year. I'm really hoping. That's a goal I want to achieve. But thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Good night, everybody. Oh, and also, if you're listening, I will be in the voice chat for an hour and whatnot. So if you're interested in joining me in the VC after the stream, you guys can go ahead and subscribe. I will see my subs there if you wish to join me in a little bit. Bye, everyone.